Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to another real life racing video where this time we're having some friendly battles at the front for a change. This video is brought to you by Bruffy.com. This is my website where you can find all the info you need about me and my content, from a fully documented catalogue of my videos with chronological playlists to live streaming plans and much more. Go straight there with a link in the description and pinned comment. So race 1, and as you might notice there are some spots of water on my visor. That's because it was inclement conditions on this one. Sometimes it was raining, sometimes it was sunny, the track was damp and certainly very low grip, so it was a little bit of a messy, difficult to handle qualifying session. So I wasn't too dissatisfied with 9th place there, which is obviously where I started, and I made up 2 places straight off the line and got up into 7th place because someone behind me had a quicker start and just hit me in the back, which is exactly what I would have wanted at that stage. So I managed to get another overtake here by getting a good run out of the tight right-hander, and then I got up into 6th place, and then the person who hit me in the back hits me in the side right there, and it realizes it was a bit of a rough move, so make sure that I get the position. So it all was fine there. We'll see more of him later on in the race, but yeah, it was a decent start for once actually as well. I've had very mixed starts to my races this season, and I think that's been where I've been possibly the weakest. I think I've often lost positions more than I've gained them, but I also think I'm not too bad in these sort of low grip but dry conditions. So it was good to get a few places early on, and I felt like I was going to be able to race better than what I qualified as well, just because I wasn't really getting a clean lap towards the later stages of the qualifying session when it dried up. And that's what I was seeing throughout the course of this race, and as we're seeing, we're sort of in a fight for a top 5 here, which is what I like to see. This is kind of where I want to be. I want to be racing up at the front, having some fun battles like this. I've got my old 2014 karting buddy Callum Cleat directly in front of me now, and he had a very good qualifying in the rain, but his kart didn't seem like it was that great once it started to dry up. So there was definitely positions on offer here, but also I had, like I said, the person who hit me in the back, his name is Tom Shipman. He's one of my 24-hour race karting teammates. Callum Cleat is another one. I'll talk about that later on and in a different video as well. But he had a very quick kart in a straight line, it seemed, but he swapped his kart on the grid, so he had very cold tyres, which is probably why he slammed into the side of me on the left-hander around the first lap. But he obviously had a quick enough kart to get a good start and push me up the back off the line and get me a few positions. So I knew that, as you can see, we're in a train of cars, and certainly in the first race after qualifying there's less of a difference with the performance of the drivers and karts that you're racing around at this stage, because you've had the qualifying session where everybody has already gotten into their pace positions, as opposed to the second race where all the karts change around, and you could have a driver in first place who's got a really bad kart, for example, and things like that. So I knew that there was a chance to maybe make some positions in the early stages of this race, but also very much a potential to lose positions as well. And there were still bits of water around the track and bits of damp areas. As you see here, all of us go wide on this corner because I think there was a bit of water that was dragged onto the track on the corner beforehand. So it was certainly low grip and it was tricky conditions, but I kind of like this. I think it's more fun to be sliding around a little bit and trying to find out where the grip is and keep up the momentum and all that kind of stuff. And even though first place is kind of getting a little bit of away from this group, but we were having a good nose to tail battle for second place, and there's a good few guys behind me as well, so it's a big long train of cars. Now I get a decent run out of the corner here, and I spy an opportunity up the inside here. I get water all over me because I realized there was a puddle on the inside, which I didn't know going into it, and I think that messed up a few people behind actually, who suddenly found themselves with no grip. I wasn't able to get the move done on Callum, but yeah, it seemed like at this stage I noticed that I definitely had a kart that was a little bit quicker in a straight line, but I also knew that there was a kart that was even quicker in a straight line behind me. So it was just that good balance that you get when you're doing these sorts of races, and you're trying to find your position up the inside of someone while not making a mistake or giving the opportunity to someone else to make that position. And this is what I enjoy the most about doing this sort of thing. You know, it's racing close like this and having these good battles. Now, round here, I managed to realise I've got a good sort of a bottom end on this car and decent grip as well. So when Callum was a little bit offline there, I spied an opportunity up the inner side and I managed to get that move done to get up into the top 5. And I was pretty happy with that. You know, that was a position that I felt like I could have got, and certainly now I'm looking forward. But again, when the card perform, you know, after the qualifying, there's not going to be an awful lot of chance to really make an impression. It's not like, for example, the last race in the previous video where, you know, I was in 27th at one point, but I had a good kart and people in front of me didn't, and I was able to make up a load of places and I ended up finishing 5th. Go watch that video if you want to see that, by the way. It was a really good video. It was a great race, that second one. But you're not going to get those differences in this first race where everyone's done the qualifying, and most of the time you have the same kart as what you did the qualifying in, so people are already generally in their positions. So we'll skip on to the action to the middle of lap 6, and you'll see into the chicane I go a little bit wide. I think I got into a little bit of a wet patch, so that really compromises me going down into the hairpin at the end of the back straight. And I went defensive here because I was aware that Mr. Shipman, who, as I've talked about earlier, he was, you know, once his tyres were getting up to speed, he was going to be very quick. And yeah, he'd managed to get past Callum as well, and I was aware that he was right behind me at this point. But again, I'm a little bit wide on the final corner here, and he's just up the inside of me there, and you'll see the pace difference as he's able to sort of drive past me and give me the thumbnail image, thanks for that, by giving me a little wave as he went past. So, you know, I kind of, and I was realising that my card had pretty good grip, as you saw in that first corner. It was decent on the bottom end, so it's in terms of sort of acceleration, and it had some pretty good grip as well, but it just didn't have that little bit of extra in terms of the top end at the very, you know, final part of the straight, for example, and that's why I was able to get past relatively straightforward once Tom was up the inside. But I thought, okay, I'm back down in 6th, but if I try to stick with him, maybe we can go together and chase another position further on, and opportunities might present themselves. So whilst we're busy chasing down 4th place as it was, I'll let you know quickly about the 24-hour race that we're doing. We're going to be doing the Buckmore 24 hours at the end of this month with a number of guys who are racing with us now and race this championship. Names that you know, like Callum Cleat, you know, Smithy, who we used to race on GTA with, Tom, who's right in front of me now. There's going to be a number of us who do this championship, going down to Buckmore Park and running the 24-hour race there. I'm going to be putting out a video for that specifically later on this month, probably a few days before the race actually takes place, and during that I'll also link how you can watch it live and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited for that. It should be good fun. But it also leads nicely into my general plans for the rest of this year, because in I think it was the very first episode of the series for the 2024 edition, I was talking about how, you know, that first round didn't go very well, and certainly the first race of the second round also didn't go very well. My first 3 results were pretty bad, and my final 3 results have been not too bad actually, including the 2 that you're going to see in this video. But I was, you know, I was saying in that first video for this year that I don't know, because the karts are so different these days, whether I'll do the full season here. And as it turns out, I'm not going to be able to anyway, because I'm away for, I think, 2 of the rounds, and the third one of them, it also takes place just after the 24-hour race, so I'm not too fussed about doing that one. So I'm not going to do all of the rounds of this championship this year. I'm going to do 1 on, 1 off, and sort of, I think there'll be 3 more rounds basically of this championship, but I'm going to use the sort of the time and the money that I'm not spending doing this championship by experimenting with some other things as well, and hopefully I'll bring you guys along for the journey with that, and just experiment, try out a few different championships, different card types, different things like that, and just try a few different things, and maybe that'll give me an impression on what, or an idea of what I can do fully next season. As you can see here, I managed to spy another opportunity to go up the inside here, and I actually got 2 spots in one, and I wasn't expecting that when I first went into that move. Basically, Tom went up the inside of Zach, as it was, and they were both going to have a compromised line, which I was able to see, beforehand. So I was able to sort of change my line going into the corner to try and get a better run out of it and into the second part of the corner. But then I noticed that Tom was probably going to get the move done if I gave him a hit up the backside, and that would allow me to then get ahead of Zach myself and I'd gain 1 position. But then the great grip that this cart had allowed me to just keep it tight on the inside and get 2 positions, so I went from 6th to 4th in 1 corner. But then I had the problem that Tom was still right behind me in that pretty quick cart in a straight line, so I had another 3 laps to go of taking that pressure really and trying to defend as best I could to keep the position, and I do manage to do that by the end of the race. So it was nice to one hand be racing at the front, get some overtakes, get some opportunities, and make the most of, I guess, I don't think I was really going to be catching the top 3 in terms of when we looked at the best lap times at the end. They had just had quicker carts, but maximizing that, getting a top 5, pretty good result. And to get that in the first race, which hasn't happened that often this since I returned to the championship, that was pretty good, and I was pretty happy with that. And it was just fun again to be sort of racing at the front, racing with friends, racing, just having good battles. A little bit of a scary moment here, by the way, trying to overtake a back marker, but thankfully his line wasn't quite as tight as I would have wanted to take, so I was able to survive that. But yeah, it was a sort of a tense final few laps trying to make sure I kept the position, but I was able to, which was nice. And yeah, it was just nice to be racing at the front, and you've always got to enjoy those moments and enjoy the times where you're having some good battles, because they don't come around that often when you're doing higher kart championships, and the karts are just so different in pace and performance. So yeah, I did manage to secure that 4th place, and that's where I would be starting the second race from, instead of way down the field like I normally do. Alright, so second race, and again, like I said, starting in 4th place, and again, I didn't get a great start, but again, I got a hit up the back from someone who got a better start, so I'm always happy to have that, and I was able to keep this 4th place around the first lap. And then it obviously started to, the action started to happen after that. It sort of rained in between the 2 races and then dried up as the heavyweights did their race. We're in the lightweight championship, but the heavyweight championship does their qualifying and their race before we then go out for our second race. So it had rained again, and then it dried again, so it was a very on-off kind of day, but it just so happened that all of our races were in the dry, and it dried up quick enough that even though it was a little slippy and not full grip, we certainly weren't setting the world alight with the lap times we were getting this round. It was dry lines in most of the corners, so yeah, it was back dry again, even though the lap times weren't that great. But it was just a case of getting a feel for the race again, getting a feel for the track conditions and the new kart that I'm in, because all the karts swap around for the second race. The second, the karts that finish at the back of the first race go to the front of the second race, so they basically get swapped around completely. I get a decent run around the final corner there after a mistake, and there was a really big headwind this round, so I got a good slipstream effect going on, and he doesn't choose to defend going into the first corner, so I managed to get that overlap and get up into 3rd place, which was pretty good. The trophies are handed out for the top 3 in the final race, so this was a good place to be in. But obviously in this second race, you're always aware of the fact that because the karts have been swapped around, there might be some really quick karts behind from quick drivers who had a bad first race, just like the second race that I had last month. I was in 27th after the first couple of corners, and I ended up finishing 5th. So there's always that potential that there's much quicker karts going to be coming through, and quicker drivers as well who hadn't had a great first race. But I couldn't really think about that at this stage, because I was seeing myself catch up to second place, and as the race goes on, the pace difference kind of levels out a bit. But again, in this kart I had some pretty good grip, and I think in the early stages of this race, when the track was at its least grippy, we could say, that was paying dividends because I was just catching up so much to the guy in second, but he had a better top speed. So as you saw on the previous lap, I was able to get that slipstream effect with the big headwind and get up the inside of the person who I overtook for third place. But this time, even with me being in the slipstream, the guy in second was able to drive away. Now I'm able to stick with him and catch up in the corners, but his kart always seemed to have that little bit of extra speed at the very top end that stopped me basically from getting into a position to mount an overtake or sending it up the inside or something like that. I was close so many times, but it was just difficult to get that little bit of extra to really, you know, make that overtake. As you can see, I get a better run out of the right-hander there, but his kart's got enough speed once it got up to speed that he's able to maintain a position, and I was finding that was happening pretty much every corner I was attacking, and I think I even go into the back of him at one point in the next couple of corners just because I have so much more grip than he does, but you know, there was just no way past. So yeah, a little bit frustrating in the early stages to be in that. I think if I'd been able to get ahead early on, sort of now, I would have been able to mount a good challenge for one of those top 3 positions, but we had some quicker karts, like I said, coming up behind us, and that was something that I noticed about now, I think. But I was also trying to focus on making this overtake because, again, I felt like I was quicker, so I felt like if I can get ahead, I can worry about the quicker karts later on, and you know, one at a time, and I got a really good run coming out of this left-hander, again with that better grip, but I got stopped a little bit by him just being slower around there, and then I ended up losing a position on the left-hander here because I was not, honestly, I just wasn't looking. I was too busy focusing ahead, and then I lose a bit of grip on the right-hander, and then I end up losing 3 positions in one go, and that's how it can happen when it can be so close like this, and you can have nose-to-tail battles. You can lose 1 position that turns into losing 3 positions. So I'm back down in 6th from being in 3rd, but I'm able to, again, he doesn't defend this one, so I just launch it up the inside and I'm back into 5th. And then that's pretty much how it stays for a while. I'm able to, after I settle down again, I catch up again as we're on lap 8 now. I've caught up again, but it's to the same person who I was trying to get past in the early stages of the race. Now we're battling over 5th place as the 2 guys who came and passed me have gone and gotten past him and driven away in 2nd and 3rd. So now we're battling over 4th and 5th. But again, I'm having that same issue where I've got the better grip, but I just don't have that little bit of extra speed, and this is basically the closest that I get. And you can see 3rd place is basically just ahead of the both of us. The pace difference wasn't all that much by the end in terms of best lap. Callum in 2nd place had a bit of a better best lap, and 1st place was just gone this round. But this is why I say that I think if I'd been able to get ahead of this guy early on in the race, I probably could have at least mounted a defense for one of those top 3 positions. But yeah, just that's how it worked out. So yeah, that's pretty much how it is. You know, I'll like I said, I've told you that I'm going to be experimenting with a few different things this season. Not going to be doing this championship every single round, but I will be doing some more of them. And I'm going to try some different championships, different karts, different stuff like that, different racing events, and I'll bring you along for the ride. And also that will sort of hopefully give me an idea on what I want to devote my time to full time next season, but also, you know, devote my money to. It's a money aspect as well and what I can afford. But I'll use this season as sort of an experimenting season and bring you along for the ride, and that obviously starts with the 24-hour race. And I think the thing that I generally miss the most by not doing this championship, and what I've missed the most when I wasn't able to do it, or at least I wasn't able to bring you guys the footage of it, is on the one hand making these videos, but also just the social side of it, because, you know, racing at the front with friends, chatting every month with, you know, people who share similar interests to you, and just nice people as well. That's what makes it just a fun thing to do. When I've come here on my own and just raced around and not really, you know, had a bad time or whatever, and no one to really talk to or anything like that, it's just nowhere near as fun. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely keep my hand in with this championship, and like I say, I'm gonna do every other round, but I'll also try some different stuff as well. But that's all gonna come after the 24-hour race, which, like I said, there will be a video on later on this month. So yeah, in the end in this race I was able to finish in 5th place, so a decent result. You know, the last 3 races have been a 5th, a 4th and a 5th, so I can't complain too much. And yeah, certainly a better 3 rounds that I've just done in comparison to the first 3 rounds of the championship, in terms of the races at least. So yeah, it was alright this one, and 2 decent results, 4th and 5th for this one. But yeah, I'll see you guys again in the run up to the 24-hour race, and then there'll obviously be a video of the 24-hour race action as well. So thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.